Ooh, ooh. Big fish ish. Y'all know what it is. We got a big fish talk, big fish podcast. Who knows what it's going to end up being? But I've been having some thoughts over the last few weeks, and this is going to be a funny one. I guarantee it'll be a funny one. Actually, I don't guarantee that, but it's going to be a little bit one that kind of makes you think, but also you may just be looking at me like, yo, Dak is bugging. He really lost it. Or you may be like, yo, Dak may be on to something. Maybe this is something that we should all think about, neither here nor there, as long as we're having the combo. You know, take what you can from it, leave what you don't need, and we'll just move forward from there. But what's the topic for today? Y'all know I do a lot of talking about calling out what my community, the black community, needs to do to become successful and compete and win. But it got me thinking. Of course, when I'm always thinking about us being successful, I'm thinking about us being successful in America. But then a lot of the things that I'm bringing up from time to time are issues that are more so Americanized issues that happen to affect black people in the worst way. Whether that's targeted, whether that's systemic, whether that's systematic, it is what it is. I'm not here to go back and forth about that. But what I am here to do is point out the fact that, or my my theory that what black people are to America, America is to the world. What black people are to America, America is to the world. So what kind of got me walking towards, this direction of making that theory, making that claim? I was just going over some stats with America. We always talk about, we hear things like make America great again. We hear that America is the greatest country in the world. I would agree in a lot of ways. I would definitely agree. And, all the opportunities that America provides, all these different things, which is why a lot of people, all over the country, or all over the world, I should say, want to come to America. And I started looking at three different areas: healthcare, education, and the economy. And I was thinking about that video. There's a video. I forget the guy. He's an actor. I forget what he plays in. Maybe I can put it in the comments or something like that in the description of the video. But he put up a video where he was like in the classroom, or they were doing a panel, and he came out and said, like, America's not the greatest country. And he listed off all these different areas in which the U.S. ranks far behind everybody else, or a lot of the other, top countries. So, and excuse me if I keep developing these sniffles right before I'm getting ready to record. It is what it is. Bear with it. So I looked at America, healthcare, education, and the economy, and then I just looked at it overall. So my overall thoughts before I decided to look up some numbers, every time I started making comparisons between what black people are to America and what America is to the world, I felt like I was hitting every time. So I started thinking about, how black people, where our culture, I would say, is probably known as one of the coolest cultures in the world. If not, I'll say the coolest culture in the world, just from an entertainment perspective. We have some of the most influential people in the world, mostly from an entertainment perspective. And we are very great, or regarded as great, in areas that create influence and create attention, but not necessarily that create results, positive winning results. And that's what got me thinking about America. Like, without looking at all the numbers, I was just thinking, like, America, you look at all these other countries. When I think about how other countries look at America, probably they all have, the conservative people from those countries probably look at it like, oh, this is terrible. These westernized American ideals. But a lot of the other people, especially the young people, I'm sure there's a good amount of people that look at it as if America is the coolest thing ever. They're so free. They do what they want. They show off their sexiness. They don't, it's revealing. You could just have fun. It's not about results, it's about just having a good time. They stand up for everybody's rights. They always give the voice to the people that don't have one a voice, make them feel seen and heard, all these different things that are probably appealing when the grass is greener on the other side. So if you're in another country, a lot of the stuff that America appears to be looks very appealing. And that's the same way that I look at a lot of the stuff that black people are known for. It looks very appealing. A lot of the stuff that we do looks extremely appealing, and we make stuff look good. We make stuff look cool. However, like I said, when it comes down to the results and actually winning, that's the thing. It's like the white man can't jump. When he said, I think he said, don't, maybe I'm going to get the quote wrong, but I believe he said that a black guy would rather look good and lose than not look good and win. Think about that. That may be one of the craziest lines ever. Matter of fact, I got to look it up. Now I have to look it up. White man can't jump. White man can't jump. Black guy would rather look and lose. All right, so I'm looking up the quotes. Good old Billy Hoyle. All right, so am I going to be able to find the quote? He said, a black man would rather miss than look bad. That's not it, isn't it? No, I don't think that one's it. Hold on. I don't know. You know what? That's what he said. He said that a black man would rather look good and lose than look bad and win. Maybe that's not the direct quote, but hey, that's what I got from it. And it says a lot about us. You know, we nobody probably dresses as well as us. It could be in the poorest neighborhoods, but we still dress better than kids in the wealthiest neighborhoods dress. We look good. We're cool. We make stuff look good. We make stuff look appealing. We always call for attention just by us being us, you know, the swag that we bring, the charisma, all these different things, the edginess, everything. But it doesn't turn into wins. And it still has us, when it comes to black people, at the bottom of this country, you know, losing. I just look at everything, you know, I'm a sports guy. I look at everything sports. We're losing. And in a lot of ways, America's losing. America is losing. But because we are so damn appealing, it makes it almost appear, I should say, that we're winning and that we're doing better than we are, that we're more successful than we are. So that's what made me start diving into some of these statistics and say, like, yo, am I just talking or is this really a thing? So I looked at healthcare and just compared it to some of the other countries, found some articles. You can feel free to look it up on your own. I don't know the proper way to be officially citing all these things, but I looked at a couple different articles, not just Wikipedia, even though I did look at some of the Wikipedia numbers, but I confirmed them with some of the other quote unquote official sites. But you could never. If we learned anything with 2020, a lot of things that appear to be are not, and a lot of things that are don't appear to be. But neither here nor there. Let's get into healthcare. So it says the U.S. ranked last among 11 countries. And these peer countries are ones that are also the high income nations. So they rank last among these 11 countries, and some of the areas that they looked at were access to care, the care process, which is preventative care, safe care, coordinated care, and patient engagement and preferences. Then when we looked at healthcare outcomes, the outcome of, whether it's a surgery or any particular area, they looked at the U.S. performing poorly on maternal mortality. So obviously with moms dying when giving birth, infant mortality, life expectancy, preventable mortalities. And out of these preventable mortalities, I believe 177 deaths per 100,000 people was more than double than the best country, Switzerland, at 83 deaths per 100,000 people. Now, these are these preventable mortalities. You guys can look up exactly what that means. There's a few things that fall into that space. Then when it comes to life expectancy ranks, Japan came in first at 84.7. The U.S. was at 77.3 with 29 countries ahead of us. I don't know if that seems like a lot. To me, 7 years of life is a big thing, especially when you spread it across an entire nation. But U.S. life expectancy has surprisingly decreased. This is probably the biggest one. The U.S. life expectancy has surprisingly decreased in recent years, while it increases in other similarly developed countries. That's something that we got to focus on. The U.S. life expectancy, our life expectancy, where other peer countries, same thing, right? That are along the same lines of us, their life expectancy has increased, but ours has decreased. It's getting worse. Think about that. Since the pandemic, the gap between the U.S. and other comparable countries has widened regarding mortality rates. Hence what I just mentioned. Ours is decreasing, theirs is increasing, the gap is spreading. That's something that needs to be addressed because that's a pattern. That's a pattern. So what are we going? We talked about access to care, care process, healthcare outcomes, life expectancy. Now let's tap into administrative efficiency. 2 out of 3 U.S. primary care docs reported the time spent trying to get their patients needed treatment because of insurance coverage restrictions was a major problem. So just the time that it costs 2/3 of primary care doctors to get their patients the needed treatment was a major problem for 2/3 of primary care doctors. In Norway, which ranks first, only 7% of the primary care doctors reported this problem. So here we had about 67% of our primary care doctors reporting that there's a time issue when it comes to providing their patients the needed treatment, compared to Norway, which ranks first, and it's only 7%. Seven compared to 66, 67, all right? A problem. So as much as we like to look at ourselves as we're always leading the way in healthcare, health and wellness, all these other things, at the end of the day, do we? I'd have to say no. So now let's get into education. We looked at a USC Rosier study of 12 countries. I hope I'm pronouncing the Rosier part. Rossier, if you want to look it up. First thing that we look at is spending. When it comes to education, the U.S. spends $809 billion. All right? $809 billion a year. Next is Japan with $160 billion. The literacy rate, as I can't read, the literacy rate at age 15, we were number 3, not bad. Math test scores, we were number 10, not good. Science test scores, we were number 9, not good. Remember, this is out of 12 countries. So then we go to Education Week. So I guess this is where a lot of testing is compared. But 30 countries outperformed the U.S. in math at the high school level. And then we looked at an Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. Millennials in our workforce tied for last on test of mathematics and problem solving among the millennials in the workforces of all the industrial countries tested. I don't know of a better sign or something as alarming than to look at comparing our younger generations to other countries that are comparable to us, their millennial generation. We're falling behind. That is a telltale sign of, just like I said, mentioned with the the life expectancy, ours is decreasing while others are increasing. This is one of the telltale signs of education. Our younger generations, compared to other younger generations in other countries, we are not preparing them properly. And when we don't prepare them properly, these are our future leaders. So what do we think is going to happen? Do we think that they're just going to not be prepared properly? And then, 20, 30 years from now, they'll be able to do a better job running the country than these other millennials from other countries? This is a competition. So if one team is prepared better than the other team, what do we think is going to happen? The team with the best preparation typically wins. We just talked about that on one of the last Big Fish talks. All right, so now let's look at the economy, the one that we all love, right? So the U.S. ranks number 1 in gross domestic product. Now, what is gross domestic product? I don't think I have the definition here, but it's just the goods and services that a country owns. And just to be sure, I'll look it up, but that's my definition of it. The goods and services, let's see what they have for the definition. A monetary measure, the market value of the market value of all the final goods and services produced and sold in a specific time period by a country. All right, so I was right. Always acknowledge when you're right. But so when you look at the goods and services, so that pretty much means that the value of our goods and services is extremely high. It's number 1. So we do very well in this area based on the value of our goods and services. Our growth rate, however, is 115th out of 193 countries. The U.S. ranks number 1 in another category that is telling as well when it comes to the most debt. Among the most populated countries, the U.S. ranks second behind Japan in terms of debt as a percentage of GDP. It's predicted we will reach Japan's levels by 2038 because the U.S. relies excessively on debt to fund public expenditures. The only way to improve on this, why didn't I just make this bigger? I'm over here squinting trying to read this. The only way to improve on this is for policymakers to spend less and enact long-term reforms to major government programs rather than the temporary solutions trying to win votes now, compromising the future. All right, short-term thinking. So when it comes to the economy, now do y'all get why I said I relate, America's to the world, what black people are to America? When I look at the value of our goods and services, I see that as, black people, that being the talent, the talent that black people have. We have a lot of talent. But then when I look at the debt, who's in more, who has the worst debt, the worst type of debt? Black people in America, right? Right? So we're somewhere at the bottom when it comes to that in bad debt. However, I shouldn't say however, another area that we need to look at, like when I say the value of, when I say the gross domestic product, the value of our goods and services, black people, we are valuable. We've been valuable since slavery in this country, before slavery in this country, because everybody knows we were already here. But we've always been valuable. But the value that we brought to the table has always benefited others more than it does us because we don't have the ownership. So when I look at what do we produce in America, yeah, we have the value of the goods and services, but what do we produce that we own? All right, what are our natural resources that we quote unquote own? It's not a lot when it compares to other countries. So that's how I look at making the comparison between, having your GDP be number 1, but then at the same time, your growth rate is not there. So other countries are definitely catching up. We have the most debt and we don't own anything. Like we don't have the natural resources that a lot of other countries have. So that's how I kind of make those comparisons. And that's just kind of wrap this up to I guess the going through the numbers is a little bit boring. However, I just couldn't talk to you guys about this without having some numbers. But America needs to make a change. America is we're moving in the direction to be cool and to look good and prefer that over absolutely winning, actually winning. All right. We prefer to look good and to have this appeal as such a great nation, and we're losing the actual work that comes along with it. So it's like on a team, you develop this appeal and you develop it through hard work, whatever else. You get to this number one spot where everybody regards you as the top dog, but then you stop working for it and you think that you could just rely on reputation, and you think that you don't have to prepare the younger generations and instill the same things that allowed us to get to that number one spot in them. So where everybody else, every other country's hungry, they're competing, they're doing what needs to be done instead of what things we want to do. They're focusing on the things that they need to do to put them in the best possible position to compete and win. Us, we're just trying to have fun. We're trying to win. We're trying to be friends. We're trying to look like the nicest person. I don't want to be the nicest person. When it comes to competing, who wants to be the nicest person? Like, whoever said like, oh, this is when we're giving credit to people who won, who competed their ass off, all these different things. Oh yeah, they were nice. No, no. A lot of times, it's the mean cats you want. Because that's what it's going to take. That's who you want on your team, because it's a competition. You got to have the dogs. We got to have the ones that are willing to be disciplined and focused and sacrifice all these different areas. And when you look at America overall, just the direction that we're going in, everything is just so feelings based. What do I feel like doing? Like nothing. And that's the privilege that we've provided. So I guess that's a testament to the success that we've had in this country, because now we live in such a privileged state to where people now don't have to worry about survival, don't have to worry about defense, all these different things, preparation. Why? Because it's not at the front of our mind, because we're so privileged. We don't think about competing with other countries. We just think that as long as we can go to the Olympics and win more medals than everybody else, then we can still claim that we're number one. As long as we can, within our country, just show that our, president looks, like the most powerful person in the world, and that the U.S. looks like the most. As long as we can keep just pushing that propaganda out there and that marketing, then as long, as we can get our actual Americans to believe it, then we'll be good. And that's the wrong mindset. That's not a realistic mindset for any team. It's not. And we're setting ourselves up for failure. And another point, I didn't even touch on sports. That's another thing. That kind of just came to mind, but that may be the best correlation right there, where we care about sports and entertainment. So as long as we have the best actors, entertainers, athletes, and we can compete against other countries in that way, that's what we hold so high. Think about it. We give people leadership positions. Look at the black community. We have Cardi B and Charlemagne interviewing Joe Biden. Why? I don't know. But we give our entertainers and athletes these positions because we hold them in such high regards. Let's look at America compared to other countries. We'll have, like, our representation when it comes to other countries. When they said, like, if other countries, people living in different countries wrote down like some of the most influential people in America, I guarantee you most of them would be entertainers and athletes, because that's what we excel in. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be addressed, a lot of stuff that hopefully will be addressed. But America, y'all looking like some Negroes, man. We looking like some Negroes. So we need to bite down and get out of this mentality. So, regardless of whether I'm talking to, my specific black community, or I'm talking to the overall American community that I'm a part of, things are moving in the wrong direction. And a lot of times we like to ignore stats because when we ignore stats, it allows us to ignore reality and instead compromise with our own conscience and do what we feel like doing and what makes us quote unquote happy rather than what's necessary to win, to compete, to protect our country, to protect these quote unquote real freedoms. Not the I shouldn't say quote unquote, to protect the freedoms over those other freedoms that we're fighting for that aren't in our best interest. I'm not going to get into that on this particular pod, but we need to be able to prioritize what's important and what's most important when it comes to the time, effort, and energy that we're spending on fighting these different agendas. So, America, black people, something's got to change. Something's got to change. We got to figure out. We got to figure out how to shift the mindset, how to shift what has become the nature of people that are Americans. Because all we're doing is not fulfilling our responsibility for the next generations, and we're putting them in a terrible position in which it'll be very hard for them to be successful, and they're going to have to deal with the problems that we let slip through the cracks, or even worse, their kids who will be even less prepared than they are will have to deal with those problems. So it's on us. So black folk, we getting about this bottom in America. We're going to compete. We're going to do what's necessary to win, and we're going to do what's necessary to push our community in the right direction. And with that, all the respect and everything else will come along with it. You may not, I'm not looking for people to like, me. I shouldn't say that. I enjoy people liking me, but when it comes to competition, I'm not looking to make friends. I'm looking to win for my team. That's that. And hopefully we could do the same thing with America overall. So like everything else, I guess it just starts in our individual households, and then we just grow out from there, our villages, our communities, and we just set new trends and establish a new culture moving forward that is more aligned with our success. So with that, I'll let y'all go. Enjoy the rest of your day. Onward and upward, strength and honor. Get to that bag with integrity, of course. And let's make today our best day yet. All right? See y'all soon. Ew.